All right, it looks like we have people hopping in. Hello, everybody. I'm Alexa Tinsley. I am the Director of Programs for Jett Foundation. I want to thank you all for being here with us today to learn more about ABLE accounts and how they can offer opportunities for financial autonomy and independence. So I'm going to give it just another minute for us to be able to allow some more people in and get it streamed to Facebook. So in the meantime, if you are comfortable putting your name, you or your child's age in the chat and where you guys are located, that would be wonderful. And I will be back shortly. Right, it looks like we are good to go. Again, thank you all for joining us today, and we can't wait for you to hear from Kristin Carleton today from All Needs Planning. We are talking today about ABLE accounts and how they can offer opportunities for financial autonomy and independence. We know that this is a really big topic that we've been hearing a lot about in the community and the community needing more information on. So we're very happy and grateful for Kristin to provide some of that today. Kristin is a multi-accredited financial services professional with over 2 decades of experience helping families confidently achieve their long-term financial goals. Her journey into special needs planning began with the diagnosis of her own son. She's an active member of the boards of GRASP and a Senate-appointed member of the Commonwealth Savers Board in Virginia, where her goal is to expand post-secondary opportunities for individuals with disabilities. So before we get started, I do just want to mention a few things. As always, this webinar is being recorded, so if for any reason you are not able to stay the whole time, or if you have someone that you know that wanted to attend this webinar and the timing just wasn't right, the link will be provided to you after the webinar, and you can always either rewatch it or send it along, pass it along. We'd be happy to have you share with others as well. At the end of this presentation, we will be doing a live Q&A. That will be all of the questions will be taken through the Q&A box at the bottom kind of middle of my screen. It's a box with a question mark in the middle. So if you do have questions throughout the presentation, please do put them in that box. We do our best to monitor the chat, but we don't always get to all of those questions. We are also streaming to Facebook Live, so if you do have any questions through there, we are trying to monitor through there as well. So please feel free to ask your questions if you're watching it on Facebook as well. We also do have closed captioning, so there is also a button at the bottom of your screen. It has a box with a CC in the middle. If you click that, you should be able to have captions live for you available. And with that, that's going to be all for me, all the talking I will do for right now, and I will hand it off to Kristin.
All right. Thank you so much, Alexa. It's so good to be here, you all. Thank you for having me. And yes, I want to talk all about ABLE accounts, supported independence, and another tool you may or may not have heard of, the microboard. So I'm Kristin Carleton. I'm the CEO of All Needs Planning, but I first want you to start and think about, where are you at in your journey? What we know about special needs planning is that the journey can look different for our families than for other families. And so you're thinking in different stages, right? Birth to age 3, you're in early intervention. Then you're getting age 3 to 17, you're in school services, you're working through the IEP process. But you get to age 18, and you've got to handle that transition to adulthood, application for supplemental security income, figuring out work. Are you still in school? Are you still receiving services at school? Maybe you are until age 22. Then you got to start thinking about day supports, right? What replaces some of those supports that your child has had throughout their schooling years? And then there's that stage where parents retire. And I always say, listen, there's the parents' retirement, and that brings in some additional things like their application for Social Security, child's application for the disabled adult child benefit. But there's a period of time where parents may have their adult child with a disability still living with them, and then they're no longer able to provide care. And so we need to be very intentional about that stage of life, as well as when the parents are no longer physically here. So we think through all of these very intentionally. think about where you are today and how that might impact the questions that you have about the ABLE. So I do have 2 decades of financial services. My son was diagnosed with agenesis of the corpus callosum, which is a brain disorder, a rare brain disorder, when I went to the growth scan. And that really catapulted me on this journey. I will tell you today, we have all needs planning. All we do is special needs planning. We're completely 100% devoted to that. And I have 2 business partners. All of us are parents and caregivers of kids with disabilities. And so we're on the journey. Each of us got here because we wanted these kinds of services and supports for our own children, and we couldn't find it in the marketplace. So we built what we wanted to see. I do serve on the board of Commonwealth Savers, and I bring that up because they run the Virginia Able Now program. And so I am very familiar with the program and the ins and outs, the pros and cons, and happy to answer questions about that. Our process. So we want every single family to be cared for, protected, and have room to grow. And we do put categories into each of those things, but imagine your family in the middle, and imagine that you're thinking about financial planning, support planning, benefits eligibility. That's all the daily decisions that you have to make to keep your family going and supported, right? Then there's protect, and that's, hey, how do you keep the guardrails on? So that's tax efficiency, right? Make your dollars stretch as far as possible. It's legal planning, estate planning, decision-making supports. There's insurance, fill any gaps that are out there. And then there's grow. You're investing towards the future that you want. You're setting personal goals, putting together person-centered plans for each member of the family, and you want to relax and enjoy. And there's one thing I just want to acknowledge, and that is that in our planning, we are trying to build the best life we can for your family member while also keeping them benefits eligible. And sometimes those 2 systems, those 2 ideas are at odds with each other. We know that, and so we're building an umbrella on top of that that can be aware of both of those things and help them to work together instead of feeling that friction all the time. So in terms of just our agenda today, we're going to look at tools for independence. We're going to talk about the ABLE account, the micro board, and the special needs trust, and specifically how each of these can work together to provide better long-term outcomes. So let's just get right to the heart of it. What is an ABLE account? So imagine you have a child. So a couple of things about the ABLE. As of right now, in order to be eligible for the ABLE, you have to have had a diagnosed disability before the age of 26. Next year in 2026, that's going to go to age 46. And real specifically, they put that jump into age 46 to get veterans, because veterans were coming back from service with disabilities and were not often eligible for the ABLE account. They wanted to give them a tool to save. You may or may not know the benefits limit. So if you want to be eligible for supplemental security income and many different types of Medicaid, you have to be under a resource limit of $2,000. There are some exceptions there. They'll allow a car, they'll allow a house for you to own, but that's really it. Well, if you have an ABLE account, it uses your social security number as the beneficiary, but it does not count against your benefits eligibility unless you get up to $100,000 in that account. So just think about that. You can stay eligible for SSI, supplemental security income, all different kinds of Medicaid, including the waiver program, have up to $100,000 in there and stay eligible for all of those instead of having to worry about spending down your assets. So there are some limits in here. You can only put up to $19,000 a year into the ABLE. That is the annual gift limit. So this year it's $19,000. Last year it was $18,000. It should go up every year with the annual gift limit. A working individual can put more in. So if you have someone who's working, has a disability, they're working, they don't have access to a 401k, they can contribute the lower of either their total wages or the poverty limit additional to that 19,000 into the ABLE account. Another really important thing about the ABLE is you can only put cash in there. So you can't put other securities in there. You can't put a home in there or a car or any other type of assets. Can only put cash. Once the money is in there, you do have different investment options depending on the program that you choose to use. So you can choose to put it into a money market, a checking savings account. You can do a traditional investment vehicle, a mutual fund, but you could not actually transfer a stock or a mutual fund or a home or an asset like that into the ABLE account. So it's really important to know. Different states have different tax benefits. So you might, depending on what state you live, receive a state tax deduction for putting money into that ABLE account. Here's another really important detail. So no matter where you live across the United States, you can use any state's ABLE account program. So I'm in Virginia. I could cross the country and use California's ABLE account, ABLE program. But the laws that govern my ability to access the ABLE account, and specifically the Medicaid payback or clawback, are governed by where I actually live, not the ABLE program that I use. So if I'm in Virginia and I'm using California's ABLE program, I still have to use Virginia's laws to determine if I have a Medicaid payback. Virginia does not have a Medicaid payback. Some states do, many do. If you want to find out which ones, there is an awesome website. It's called abletoday.org. And they actually have a table that takes you through all 50 programs and will show you if there's a payback, show you all the different programs, whether they have a checking account linked to it. Some have actual checkbooks, some have a debit card, some have a prepaid card that you can access. So you want to know what's available in making that decision of where you use it. You can also direct deposit funds in there. So you can direct deposit supplemental security income into there. You can direct deposit wages, a lot of different ways you can direct deposit. The one thing I do want to make sure you know, in terms of direct depositing and how you use it, once the money is in there, it's harder to get out. So you can definitely take it out. The easiest way is to use those tools they're giving you, the debit card or the checkbook. But if you're going in and requesting reimbursement, you have to have a receipt and show them exactly what you're asking. So you couldn't go in there and go to, say, an ATM and say, oh, okay, we're going to dinner tonight. I want to take out $200. What you could do is go to dinner. It costs $100. Give the receipt and then get reimbursed for that. They'll send you a check. Flip side is you're at dinner. The check comes, you give them the debit card that's affiliated with your account and you pay that way. Keep the receipt, make a note in the system. So that brings into account, what are you allowed to use the ABLE account for? Well, it's qualified disability expenses. So it's really anything related to the person's disability, which I'll tell you at this point in time, there's never been an audit. No one's ever come in and said, well, this person with a disability spent their money in the wrong way or something that was not allowed. but it still always could happen, right? We just don't know. And so I always want to tell you, err on the side of caution. You are able to go into the website once you have an account and classify, or you can keep a spreadsheet, on your computer and just show what you use the expenses for. In general, I would say make sure that you're spending it on the individual with a disability and no one else. So you could spend it on vacation for them. You could spend it on vacation for people who are necessary to support them while they're on vacation. What you don't want to do is, say, take money out and spend it for a member of your family to go on vacation, but your loved one with a disability is not going, or have them spend it on buying a present for somebody. So basically, it can be spent on medical expenses for that person. It could be spent on food, housing, any kind of entertainment, supports. And a lot of the rules you might have heard about supplemental security income and not interfering with Medicaid waivers and things like that don't apply for funds that are used coming from the ABLE account. It is tied directly to the individual. So you can only have one ABLE account per disabled individual. It's tied to their social security number. They are the account holder, but you can have an authorized user who's helping them manage the account. Meaning, yes, you can have somebody with guardianship who has an authorized user have an ABLE account. That person who's under guardianship also can still access a debit card. So they can access a debit card. And that's why I say this is a great way to build autonomy for that person. If you're noticing in the graphic that I have up on the screen that I put a special needs trust in here. You might be wondering, well, what's that? Why does the special needs trust? What does that have to do with it? Well, I've heard many people come to me. One of the most common questions is, should I have an ABLE account or a special needs trust? And almost always the answer is both. So, and here's why. I mentioned before, the only assets that you can put into the ABLE account is cash. You can only put up to $19,000 a year. So if you want to leave a home or a car or a lot of different individual securities, or maybe you have $150,000 in an IRA, maybe there's an inheritance, an insurance policy that's coming. All of those things will need to go into a special needs trust. But what you can do is you can write into the language of the special needs trust to say, hey, I want the trustee of the special needs trust to be encouraged to fund the ABLE account for my loved one, $19,000 a year, as long as it makes sense for their long-term maintenance. And that will make sure that there is a consistent funding of that ABLE account. Now, you want to make sure that they have some flexibility and control, right? If the program changes, you don't want them to be still forced to put money into the ABLE. Let's say that if it changed and all of a sudden they said, hey, it's no longer $100,000 on that limit that will impact SSI. Now it's $50,000. You want that trustee to have power and control to adjust how much they give. But it's something where you can use those two instruments in tandem with each other to build those outcomes. And here's another really, really important thing. A special needs trust is a layer, right? It's a shield between a person and their money so that they can still be benefits eligible. An ABLE is a layer that keeps them benefits eligible, but still gives them access to that money. So the difference is an individual with a disability can access the money in their ABLE account directly at any time. They can access it using the debit card. They can request their own distributions, and they can spend it on things that they want, right? They can go to Walmart. They can take themselves out for dinner. They can sign up for a class or an app, right? The special needs trust, they're going to have to request a distribution from the trustee, and then the trustee has to approve it. So there's always going to be an additional layer on the special needs trust. Now that can be really important, right? It can help vulnerable people be protected, but it can also reduce their autonomy. And so having the two work together can really increase their autonomy and control over their own life while still keeping them protected and eligible for those benefits. So I mentioned the individual can choose how to spend. I mentioned that you can have a working individual who's also contributing to the ABLE. Here's another thing. If you have an individual who is disabled, but is working, and they are contributing money to the ABLE, but they're not receiving SSI, maybe they're on the disabled adult child benefit, or SSDI, just straight up Social Security disability income. And so they have Medicare. They're not worried about any means testing. So they don't have to worry about the $2,000 asset limit on SSI. There's no asset limit on Medicare. But they still have a disability. Well, they can put up to $550,000 into ABLE accounts, depending on the program. And it grows in that account tax-free. And when they spend it, as long as they're spending it on a qualified disability expense, they don't pay taxes at that time either. So it is post-tax money that goes into the ABLE account, but then it grows tax-free. And when they take it out, they don't have to pay taxes either. So it really can work for the person who is looking at a supported, independent life, who is going to be able to work, and won't be reliant on those means tested benefits, can really be an important retirement tool for them. Let's see. It can be used for medical care and devices. You can also use it for payment for service providers. And I think that's important too. I have a lot of families who will use it to actually pay for some helps and supports that are not covered by Medicaid or Medicare that their loved one needs. So let's talk about estate planning tools. I talked about the special needs trust. I mentioned the microboard and decision-making support, how that works. Think about your loved one in the middle, and you have all these things that they need, right? You need to make sure that they're going to be living in a safe place, that they're receiving supports in that place. If they're vulnerable, that they have protections and safety nets in place. They're going to receive the care that they need for their lifetime. They might need decision-making support. They're in the middle here. Parents, I want to make sure that you've got your trusts and wills in place, that you've got your power of attorney and medical directives in place. The special needs trust also needs to be in place. And the special needs trust can be funded by parents' trust and wills. It can be funded by direct beneficiary. But you do want to make sure that there is a funding mechanism. In other words, there are directions that tell it how it gets its funds. And you also want to make sure that there are other documents in place that direct all of the other assets that parents have. I say this because I've seen quite a few families come to me where they have a special needs trust, but no other documents. Somebody told them, you really got to go out and get a special needs trust, and they went out and got it, checked it off their list, but they had nothing else in place. And so parents passed away, and there was nothing to say, hey, everything that the parents had actually go into the special needs trust. And so after they were gone, their loved one was kicked off the waiver and then had to get an attorney in who helped them then put all of their funds into a first party special needs trust instead of a third party. And we'll talk more about that in a second. The microboard is a type of decision-making support. And I'm going to talk to you more about why I think that's a really important tool for autonomy in conjunction with that ABLE account. So the microboard is a legally registered entity, and really we're looking at using it to ensure the longevity of your loved one. It's also an incredibly important sibling support tool. So if your loved one has a sibling and you are worried about that sibling having too much responsibility, or maybe they're not planning to live close by, the microboard is a great way for them to be involved without having to take on the role of trustee or guardian. Or if they are taking on the role of trustee and guardian, or one of those two, they can also put together a board with you that provides them additional supports, so they're not taking it all on themselves. And the board is aware of the care plan, they're trained on the care plan, the needs of your loved one, they're connected to the trustee to guide decisions, and they're meeting at least annually and taking notes and have a running agenda so that they know what to discuss. If any of you have ever served on a board of directors, what I think is really great about this is that generally people who've served on a board, they know what it is, right? There's a formula, there's an agenda, maybe you have a committee, maybe you don't, but you start, once you're on that board, thinking proactively, oh, I remember we talked about this last time. There might be a solution for that. Let's talk about that solution. What could we do? So it's a really great way to boost that support and provide additional decision-making support for your loved one as well. There's this whole team of people looking out on their behalf for them, not just a trustee, who sometimes that trustee relationship, it can get a little bit heated, right? Especially if they know that person has access to money that they're not just writing them a blank check about. So the microboard is a great intermediary there as well. So that microboard, what problem is it solving? What's going to happen to your child when you're gone? What if your other child isn't ready to act as trustee? They might be later, but they're not yet. What if the services your child needs are no longer available? Well, how the microboard can meet and brainstorm, how can you find them in other ways? And where will your child live? Where will your child live is one of the most important questions that we have, right? Housing, but it's also all the support that goes behind the housing. One of the things I have people do when they're thinking about how to put together their estate planning documents, write in an instruction to their trustee that says, hey, when I'm not here, I want the trustee and the guardian and the microboard to meet and talk and put together a plan together of where my child is going to go. And if there is a transition that's needed, what that transition plan looks like. So that, again, you've got that team of people who are making the decision, and it's not being driven by the government or an overworked case manager at the government, and it's not on only one person. So how's it work? So a microboard at its core is a nonprofit or a non-stock corporation that's a small group of individuals who assist an individual with disabilities in creating and implementing a life plan. So you are registering it. It is not, I get this question a lot too, it does not have 501c3 status. So we're not talking about, you're going to go and solicit donations or you're going to get a tax deduction. We actually recommend that the microboard does not manage money at all, that you put that under the special needs trust and the trustee, because the courts understand the trust and trustee relationship a lot more than they understand the microboard relationship. And so they're much more likely to understand the risks also and to work on your behalf in that framework. Microboard members are unpaid. We want them to maintain a personal relationship with the individual. You can write in there that any expenses they incur as microboard members can be reimbursed. But we generally don't want them to be paid. The individual can be a microboard member, but they won't be a voting member. So that's important as well. They can attend meetings, and if you think that this would be healthy and worthwhile, you can write that in, or you could say something like they're always invited, but it's not necessary that they be there, or we want them at the first 15 minutes, but not the entire discussion. They can be designed to administer funds from Medicaid and other sources, or they can be advisory. And I think, really encourage them to manage the funds, but they could help direct the funds. And they could help in the hiring and firing of caregivers and direct support professionals. So what's it actually doing, right? It has bylaws. So you're writing out the rules, want you to think through, what do you do if there's a tie? How do you make decisions if there's a tie? Want you to put together a running agenda. You definitely want them to have a relationship with the individual with a disability. You want them to be trained on the care plan, meeting at least annually. Our most successful micro boards meet quarterly. I'm sure you've heard about special needs trusts. I just want to introduce you to the concept of there being a first party special needs trust and there's a third party special needs trust. First party special needs trust is when somebody with a disability has to put their own money that's in their own name into a trust in order to stay or become benefits eligible. The drawback to a first party special needs trust, you have to go before a judge, or it has to be done in a pooled trust in order for it to be approved. And you also, any money that you put in upon the individual's passing is going to be paid to Medicaid. So that Medicaid's going to pay themselves back first, and then anything left over can be passed to a beneficiary. A third party is different. Think about what a third party it means. It means somebody other than the individual with a disability, and they are putting money into a special needs trust for that individual with a disability's benefit. So it can be funded by parents, grandparents, anyone except that beneficiary. They can name a remainder beneficiary, and there's no Medicaid payback. Okay, really, really important. No Medicaid payback on a third party special needs trust. So in general, that's what people want, right? You want to be able to keep the money in your family that you've worked so hard for. And the third party trust is the way to do it. Requires you to be intentional and set it up ahead of time. When you think about that micro board and the special needs trust, I want you to think about your loved one in the middle. You've got the micro board over on the right-hand side, and you've got the special needs trust over on the left-hand side. You're building a person-centered plan for your loved one. And so you want that micro board and the trustee to be communicating. Maybe the trustee is on the micro board and maybe they're not, but you want that close, tight communication where, for example, if the trustee all of a sudden got a request for a $50,000 distribution from the trust, they've never received a request that large before, it's not to buy a home or a car, they can call the micro board and say, hey, Joe called us and he requested through his agent $50,000 and we're wondering, what's that for? Have you heard anything about this? He said it was to go on vacation, and that's just way out of line. Like the most he's ever spent on a vacation is $5,000. The micro board may have background on that, right? They may know, hey, there's somebody in Joe's life that we don't trust that we think is going after that money and requesting the distribution. Or, hey, this is a trip that Joe's been talking about for years, has built a plan, wants to go to Paris, wants to bring his girlfriend, and we'd like to make this happen for him. We think that if the money is there, let's do it for them. So those are one example of a way a microboard can work in there. Bringing this back to the ABLE account, if they're going to Paris, there's a debit card there. Or let's keep it in the United States and not worry about foreign exchange fees and all that. Let's say they're going a big trip to the Grand Canyon. The trustee of the Special Needs Trust can work with the microboard to make sure all of the details are set up. They can make the distribution for the trip, but they can also make sure that there's additional money on the ABLE account debit card that Joe and his girlfriend can use to pay for expenses while they're there. So the role of a microboard in decision-making support is really important as well. You know, there are different layers of decision-making support, right? From more minor decision-making support to all the way at guardianship and conservatorship. And we just want you to know the rules in your state. Supported decision-making is not legal in every state. It's not legally recognized as somebody else having ability to make a decision for you. So it could be used in conjunction with other tools. But you might have power of attorney and a microboard. You might have power of attorney and supported decision-making or guardianship and a microboard. They can work in tandem with each other in helping. Essentially, some of our families will actually write into the microboard and say, hey, the microboard is going to take a vote and choose who the guardian is going to be. They're going to appoint that guardian at that time. So let's look at some case studies. Let's talk about Nick. Nick is 26. He lives at home. He has autism, lives with his parents. He's never worked, but he's taken several college courses. He drives. He wants to have a job one day. He talks about it a lot. He's done an internship, but he's never been able to actually take the leap and hold down a job. He does receive SSDI on his parents' record. They're retired. And he has an ABLE account. His parents are elderly. So I mentioned they're retired. That's how he got onto SSDI, that disabled adult child benefit. His father's recovering from cancer, and his father has a diagnosis of early dementia. So his mom is wearing a lot of hats here, right? Mom is taking care of Nick. She's taking care of Nick's dad. She went and put together a microboard because she needed help in figuring out Nick's next move. And they were lucky to be able to include a lot of family and a counselor who's a close family friend, cousins, uncles, and they're all on the microboard, really helping him to find a job coach and supporting him to explore employment options. So they were able to step in there. And this is what I say, you know, you have those family members who are like, well, how can I help? What can I do? And you just don't even know where to start. The microboard is a great way to get those family members on your side. Let's give another case study. Kylie, she's a single mom. She's a 2-year-old recently diagnosed with cerebral palsy, lives with her father. And father is nearing retirement age. Kylie's really close to her father, and she has 2 cousins she's in regular touch with, but they do live in another state. She's really worried. Who's going to support her son when she's no longer here? Both her and her husband are getting older, and they're real worried about this. So Kylie develops a microboard. It creates a formal circle of support for her. Those bylaws allow for 2 to 11 people. They also write into those bylaws that Kylie is that her 2-year-old is going to have an ABLE account, that he's going to be able to use it, that it will be funded either by her or other family members, and puts that path in there to start training. And fun fact, I'm talking about her 2-year-old. That little picture right there is actually my son Eli when he was 2 at a Christmas parade. So I want you to meet our team. I mentioned we are a team of moms. I am the CEO. I'm the lead investment strategist and overall team strategist. Dr. Kathy Matthews is our director of family services, and Mary McDermott is our financial planner and insurance specialist. We all work together to build your plan for you. We get it because we're living it. We take you through our action roadmap process. So in the beginning, what we're doing is we're leading you through 5 meetings that end up with your action roadmap. Your action roadmap is then going to give you 3 main steps. So you're going to implement 3 main ideas, but it's also going to take you through that care, protect, grow model that I talked about at the beginning. So I encourage you, if you're ready, book a call with us today. We're going to establish goals. We're going to talk about what you've done versus what still needs to be done. We'll provide you an introduction to our service model at that meeting. But also, if you're not quite ready to do that, join our Facebook group. It's called Special Needs Planning with the All Needs Community, and it's free. We love and welcome everybody in there. We'd love to have you. So please join the Facebook group. Come right on in there or schedule a meeting. If you want to schedule a meeting, let's see, I think I've got, there's a QR code here that goes directly to Mary's calendar. She does all of our first meetings. But you can also always email me, Kristin at allneedsplanning.com. That 804 number is our main number. You can get to me or anyone on the team. We do work with clients in all 50 states. We're registered and licensed in all 50 states, so that's not an issue either. And we can help you with every piece of your journey. We are the only firm I know of that has a professional advocate, not just on our team, but as a full business partner. We think really strongly that when you combine planning and advocacy for families, you get better outcomes. And the way that that looks in practice is we're showing up with you at your IEP meetings. We're going to those Social Security meetings. We're meeting with your case manager. And then we're also implementing a really proactive strategy with you to help care for your loved one. So thank you so much. I'm so grateful to be here. I know I threw a lot of information at you, and I think we're going to open up for a Q&A now.
Yes, thank you so much. And you actually answered my question because I was going to ask about all 50 states. So thank you for answering that for me. But I haven't seen any questions come through, but I want to thank you again, Kristin, so much for being here with us today and sharing this information. I know that it's a sometimes overwhelming topic and sometimes just not well understood. So truly appreciate you clarifying that. And then if anybody is watching the recording, please do feel free to reach out to Kristin. If you feel more comfortable, you can always reach out to me and I will get the question to Kristin. What else I had something else I was going to say and now I can't remember. Oh, right. So if you are watching and you just need more time to process, you don't have to ask the question now. Please feel free to ask it after the fact. We are here. So again, if there are any questions, please feel free to put it in the Q&A box. But if not, let me look on Facebook to make sure nothing's come through on there. No, but as I said, the video will be recorded on Facebook and available right after this, and then we will be sending all of those who registered and attended the recording link. So if you do have anybody you know who wanted to watch this today, please feel free to send it out to them. And then please catch us next time. I believe it is June 26th for our next webinar on preventing pressure ulcers. So we thank you all again for being here today, and for everybody watching this recording, we appreciate you. And Kristin, again, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everybody.
Absolutely. Thank you.